Check it out. Your eyes are not deceiving you. We've acquired a new project car for the shop. It's a 2018 Porsche 911 GT3, and I could not be more excited. You all know us for our quarter mile racing, but believe it or not, I'm not just a straight line guy. I do love road racing, kart racing, and all types of racing. So with that being said, we recently acquired this 2018 911 GT3 with the intent of spending a lot of time on the road course and trying to help cater to that market, because we do get quite a few road racing cars through here, and people probably don't realize that because we focus so much on the drag racing aspect of our business. So a little bit about this car. It is obviously used. It has very low miles on it and has a past history of being on track, which made it a perfect candidate for what we're doing. So the first modification that we're going to be doing on this car is installing a Competition Motorsport's roll bar. Naturally, with safety being at the core of our business, it only makes sense for that to be the first modification, and I'm really excited. So let's get started. Now, as you know, the 2018 model does come with a 4-liter motor, which is the bigger motor, and it does have a PDK transmission in it. Because I know a lot of you are probably wondering, is this another stick car? No. And the reason that I ended up going with the PDK transmission is because we have the R8, and the R8 is the manual transmission. It's a gated car. We took it out to the road course and had a little bit of fun with it. But when it comes to the PDK, you cannot deny how impressive the performance is. And if we're gonna be competitive out there and do some time attack, we definitely don't wanna be rowing boat of gears, which is what the R8 has. I mean, I love the gated shifter and all, but it's just not an out-of-the-box race car like the GT3. So this car is a perfect candidate to get out there and rub elbows with some of the other racers out there. And I do not mean that literally. We're gonna time attack, definitely don't wanna be rubbing other cars, but nonetheless, really excited to get started on this project. And as you can imagine, we're of course gonna be doing an exhaust system on it. So let's get started. The hood is already open, as you can tell, because we disconnected the battery. Certainly don't wanna set off the airbags, with one of the first parts of the installation process being removing the seat belts and disconnecting the airbags. In order to remove the seats, we need to unbolt the seat belt, which has a little plastic cover over here on the side. After you unbolt the seat belts and run the seat belts themselves through the seat so that they're not going to get caught on or hang up on the seat when you remove it, you remove the seat bolts, starting with the rears. So you slide the seat all the way up, remove the rear seat bolts, and then slide the seat all the way back, and then unbolt the front seat bolts. So that's what I'm doing right now. So once you get the seats unbolted, you go ahead and slide the seat to the middle space, or I should say to the middle setting, and then you're going to lean the seat back in order to expose the underside of the seat so that you can access and disconnect the airbag sensor. So this is that black clip that you're going to want to pull out. As you can see, it just simply pulls out like that, and that releases the connector that you're going to remove. And there's also a little clip that holds it onto this bar. You just simply unclip it from that and run it underneath so that you can remove the seat without having it get tied up on any of the wiring. So there you go, there's one seat out. One of the nice things about these GT3s is they come with the carbon fiber seat back from the factory. Gotta love that. So now that we have one seat out, you're gonna go ahead and repeat that on the other side, and then it's off to the races with the roll bar. So here we have the Competition Motorsport's roll cage laid out on the floor along with the hardware. We ended up powder coating this to match the color of the car, which is Guards Red. Gives it that nice little extra touch. And the After you get the seats out, the next step is, first and foremost, and this doesn't get mentioned in any of the other videos or instructions that I've reviewed before doing this, but make sure you clean your back glass window, because as soon as you install this, you're not going to have access to it, and that would drive me insane. So make sure you do that first. The next step after cleaning your back glass is going to be to remove the rear carpet assembly. So the next step is to remove this little piece of rubber that is covering this plastic cover, which is going to reveal a nut on the inside. So it says we should be able to remove this guy, I guess. The rear seat carpet. Feels like it's Velcroed. Feels aggressive. There we go. In order to remove these, you simply push them downward. These are very weird. Very weird. So once you get this pulled upward, you're going to want to pull this back panel out. Just pulling it straight back and it'll pop out of position. And remove that. Be careful, because when you remove this particular panel, there's rubber pieces on it, that rubber caps, and you don't want to lose those because they have a tendency to want to stay inside of their housing. Voila. So what we got here after you expose or remove the carpet is this styrofoam box area, and it contains some fuse boxes, but what you're really looking for are the studs that are right behind the corner area where my fingers are. Those are the top of your struts, and that's where the kicker brackets for the roll bar are going to be installed. So you're going to want to remove this topper, because we're going to end up needing to trim the edges of it to expose access for the roll bar to run. So the next step is to install the rear kicker bars, which we're going to grab right now. So this is the passenger side kicker bar bracket. You want to be really careful of the electronics around here. You don't want to disrupt any of that while installing this. But once you get it in place, you want to install the nuts loosely back on to the studs. On the driver's side, you want to be extra careful because there's even more electronics on that side. So you want to very carefully get that bracket in there, making sure not to have anything get caught or stuck underneath it. And then loosely install these nuts as well. So you want to make sure that you leave the nuts loose, snug but loose enough where we'll be able to adjust and fit everything properly. And one other thing to note while we're here is you'll also need to trim the side of the foam on the lower section of this foam box, because otherwise you won't have clearance in order to get the bracket in there. So I didn't mention that earlier on, simply because I'm too excited to get this installed, but that is an important step on both sides. So once you get the kicker bars into place, you're going to loosely mount the kicker crossbar into position here. And using the supplied hardware, bolt them together. Good to know, good to know. Yeah, this thing is machined to fit. Absolute. So in order for the kicker bars to clear this styrofoam box, you're going to want to trim off these corners here. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Now that we've cut this top styrofoam piece, we can install it because it doesn't interfere with accessibility to the bolts that we are trying to reach.
We're good.
So the next thing you're going to want to do is take a rough measurement from the center point of where it looks like the tube is going to intersect with the carpet. And what I mean by that is, like, where does it look like the tube is going to cross paths with this kicker panel right here. So if I take a rough measurement from the center point of the tube, it's probably about 3 inches, give or take. So that's my rough measurement, is 3 inches. We're going to use that now over here with the carpet. So you're going to take from this bending point here and use that 3-inch measurement. You'll notice I've already got sort of a dark line there. You may not be able to see it, but I had done an initial measurement, and this is why they say measure twice, cut once. After taking my second measurement, 3 inches is much better for us. So we're gonna go with that. After you've made those marks, go ahead and make a slit right there with a razor blade, and that's gonna open up some space so that we can get it around the tube. You're gonna repeat this on both sides. Now we're going to go ahead and loosely put this back in. So now we've got the carpet loosely in there, and I'm ready for a nap. No, seriously though, this is no exception for any other cage job. There's nothing easy about cage work. As much as I'd like to say that it can be fun, it can, but it's been a while, bro. So at this point, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to fold and get this carpet back underneath this, and it's really not an easy or fun thing to do because it's a little bit rigid across the front here, and then it's also rigid in this point right here. So you've got to kind of fold it in the center upward and then get the two ends to slide underneath this bar. When you do that, you'll have a much better visual on where the bar is going to need holes cut in order for it to come through clean. And what you can do is take a marker. I take a permanent marker, which if you make a mistake, it's easy to take a cloth, put some rubbing alcohol on it and rub it on the carpet. It'll remove that, no problem. But you're going to want to take this and mark around where you're going to want to trim this so that it comes through very clean. Once you're done marking both sides, you're going to go ahead and wedge this back up through here again, and you're going to trim it where you marked it. Once you're done trimming, this is pretty much what you want it to look like. So at this point, you want to go ahead and put this panel back in. Otherwise, you won't have the ability to access it later on. Once you get that panel back on, you're going to want to lift this carpet back up again so that you can install the main hoop and then access those rear bolts, or those rear nuts I should say, on the struts that are holding these bars down, because you do want to have some flexibility in them when you're doing the main hoop, and you do need to have access to them to tighten them down after the main hoop goes in. Next step is to remove this plastic nut so that you can peel this carpet back and provide access to the hardware that's going to install the main hoop. So when you peel back this carpet, you'll see there's 2 bolts that are exposed on either side here. We're on the passenger side at the moment, but you're going to take this triple square, and it is a 12 millimeter triple square. This is a primary example of German engineering. Can't use a standard bolt, got to use a special tool. My particular triple square here is very long on it, so I like to use a 13 millimeter ratcheting wrench in order to remove things that are tight like this. Realistically, you could pull this whole panel off, but that's not necessary, so we're going to go ahead and just pull it back a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything, and be able to get these bolts off. Nothing is forgiving in this thing. Holy fuck, what a workout just to get these damn bolts out. So you got to push that plastic piece to the side. Once you're done getting all of your hardware in place, you're going to want to tighten it down as follows. You're going to want to start by tightening the main hoop first. Those are going to be 45 foot-pounds. Then you're going to want to do the Allen heads, which are 30 foot-pounds. And then finally, you're going to tighten the top of the strut nuts, which are 28 foot-pounds. Once you get everything torqued down, you can go ahead and start putting everything back together, starting with these plastic clips here to hold the carpet down. I didn't need to trim the carpet because it looks like the carpet itself is either pre-trimmed from the factory or maybe a previous owner had a cage, but I was able to just get the carpet to go around the cage at the base here without having to trim anything on my own car. This is never fun. So these acorns are what we use to notch the tube sometimes and fit the tubes when we're building roll cages. And in this case, it's going to be extremely easy, or it's going to simplify making a very clean cut for what we're doing. So once you get all of the interior back in, you're going to want to put this nut back on that's underneath this rubber piece on the rear center console and tighten it down. And then you're going to want to put this little plastic cover back into place along with the rubber piece after you get all the little stuff out of here, which I need to vacuum the back of my car, but this goes back in here, and then you're ready to put the seats in. So now that we got our beautiful cage installed, it's time to reinstall our seats. Not a bad idea to go ahead and tape off any areas that have carbon fiber, if you have carbon fiber trim, or any other areas that may be of concern while reinserting your seats. You certainly don't want to scratch or scuff anything on the rails of the seats when you're installing them, so just be careful. Head first. Muscles. Once you get your seats put back in the vehicle, you're going to reverse the procedure from earlier, hooking up the airbag and electrical connection underneath, followed by bolting the base of the seat to the floor, followed by installing the seat belt buckle. When it comes time to torquing down the bolts on your seats, you're going to want to torque the seat bolts that mount the seat to the floor to 48 foot-pounds, and then the bolts that hold the seat belt to the seat frame rail to 37 foot-pounds. Buckle. And once that's done, you now have a Competition Motorsports roll bar installed on your 911 GT3. Congratulations. For more helpful videos, please like and subscribe to our channel, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.